Today I wanted to show you guys how to put doors on your layout boat. You know, in my last video I showed you how to actually put the blind on the boat and to where you could have a permanent blind, and I was kind of tossing around the idea of putting doors on it or not, and I've done a lot of research and a lot of looking, and hopefully this video will be helpful to you guys. So I have two boats. One of them is an Aquapod, the Sport Edition, the 10-foot boat, and the other one is the Otter Stealth 1200. Now on my Aquapod I've actually already put doors on it, and they've worked out really well so far this year, and essentially I just made them out of PVC and zip tied my brush to it, and I've also, if you can see it on here, I've also zip tied bungee cord to the outside, so I've got kind of a permanent blind with my Spanish moss zipped onto it. But for a lot of the places we hunt, we just need different brush for different areas, and so instead of just trying to shove your brush through these little holes in this netting, in this plastic netting, I actually took bungee cord, zip tied it to it, so now you've got stubble straps, and I actually like these better than real stubble straps because they're more flexible. You can get a whole handful of brush and stick it in there, and they hold really well. So that's what I did on my Aquapod, and that could work for you guys. What I'm going to do today is a little bit different because I was concerned on my Stealth with it being actually rigid enough. This thing works perfect because it's only about a 4-foot long door, but on that Stealth I actually am going to make closer to 6 or 7 foot doors, and so y'all can use this idea or this one I'm about to show you, so y'all stay tuned. Alright guys, here's my Stealth 1200. This is the one we put the blind on in the last video. One of the first things with these doors that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to mount brackets. You got to figure out a way to attach your boat to, or your doors to your boat. So what these are right here, these are two different pieces. This first piece is a hinge right here that's just pop riveted in, like we did the pad eyes before. So I bought this piece, and then I also bought this piece right here. So this allows your doors to open and close. Now this piece right here is a 3/4 inch inside diameter in there. So the outside of your pipe needs to be 3/4 inches or less. Now the pipe I decided to use was EMT conduit, and it's 1/2 inch inside diameter. So that 1/2 inch will fit nicely in here. And then you're able to just tighten it down with that little with a flat head right there. Now, as you may have noticed with this boat, there's actually a seat right here, which is great for paddling in and out, whatever you need to do. The problem is if you were to just make your doors to where they cut off right there at your head, like the rectangle doors that I made for my pod, you're still gonna have another foot or two of opening right here when you look at from an overhead view. So what these doors are going to do, they're actually going to just be like layout blind doors, where they kind of make a slight angle at your head, and then they're going to actually cover the space right in here on both sides, and you can weave brush in, and you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. Okay, so now these are my doors. This is my conduit. I've bent these using a 1/2 inch conduit bender. And probably the trickiest part is getting to right here. You can see the opening for where your head's going to be. Alright, as you can see, we've got the frame for the doors built. They will open up just fine. One major thing to consider, especially if you're going to do a lot of paddling in your layout boat, is to make sure that your doors don't hang out so far past the boat that you can't paddle. That was one thing I had to really take into consideration. So when this door opens, you can see it only comes out just a little ways, and from where I'll be paddling from, I'll have a nice smooth surface to be paddling against, so I'm not worried about knocking the brush off the blind at all. So there we have it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our green plastic fencing. It's 25 foot, 40 inches wide, so it's got 1 inch squares. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a full cutting and run down this whole, each door. Now what you want to keep in mind is you want to make sure that your doors are all the way closed, like they're going to be at the farthest point from here. Now if I was going to do this as a permanent, if the doors were going to be on permanently, what I would do is I would actually take this blind off and I would redo this whole side to where the door and the blind and everything is one whole solid sheet of netting. But we do some layout hunting in the bay, and if you do fishing or whatnot, we want to be able to remove these doors. So this is going to be separate from this netting. And I'm using 4-inch zip ties, and kind of show you real quick what I'm doing here. So pretty much at about every inch, I'm running these in. So it should start looking something like this. Let me see. Oh yeah, here. Started right there, set my corner like I wanted it, and now I'm just going down the length of this. Alright, as you can see, we've got our netting zip tied to our first door right there. And now what I'm going to do is run bungee cord from probably right in here all the way down the length, straight down, and then maybe come up about 3 or 4 inches, and then run another thing of bungee cord about 2 inches from the top. That way, if I need to cut any natural vegetation, it'll be easy to slip in there. Alright, so my doors are just about complete. I went ahead and ran my bungee cord down the length right here and zip tied it every 6 inches, and then every 12 inches is where I zip tied my Spanish moss to. And so you can see as it gets wider right here, I've got my bungee right here, and then I've also got my bungee right here. So I've got 2 different attachment points on the side to be able to put in my natural vegetation. Another thing I did before zip tying any brush to it is I spray painted my conduit with flat black spray paint. Another thing I did was I actually ran bungee cord separate pieces just on the front hatch and on the back hatch. So I've got a piece right here, and I've got another piece on this side. I'm at the point now where I can either decide to add more brush to make this thicker to where it's more of a, to where I have to cut less when I'm out in the field, or I can leave it where it's got these spaces in there to add plenty of brush. So one way that I held my bungee cord on there was to zip tie this, like I said, every 6 inches, but I actually only put the brush every 12 inches, so every other place there's a zip tie, I zip tied it in 3 points. So one at the bar at the top, one at this bungee cord, or just at any of these points, and then another one down here towards the bottom, just to make sure that that brush has a good hold and won't go anywhere. So if I do run more brush in here, I'll just put it right here at every 6 inches. That way I'll still, even if there's brush here, I'll still have space to be able to put my natural vegetation in there to blend in. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and happy hunting.